Welcome to Not a Phase, the show where we look at looks. I'm your host, Maddie, and in today's show, we'll dive headfirst into witchcore's cauldron, plaster ourselves with paint from clowncore, and rock the house to some punk. As always, Paul, our history expert, is here to tell you where all these funky looks started from.
Hi, and welcome to Chronicles of Aesthetics. My name's Paul, and let's get ready to rock and or roll, depending on how you're feeling. The history of witchcore dates back to the history of Wiccans, practitioners of the faith of the same name. What it means to be Wiccan is up to the individual sects and interpretations, but the through line is one of life affirmation and spiritual well-being through the use of magic and rituals. The earliest recordings of Wiccans date back to the medieval era of Europe, and the act of witchcraft was seen as blasphemy and a threat to the church. A staggering 100,000 people were executed for the crime of witchcraft, spreading to the continents of America when the European settlers brought their superstitions and fears to a new world. This bred witch hunts and trials. The legacy of the Wiccan faith is seen through witches and occult imagery, as seen in media such as Matilda, Kiki's Delivery Service, Little Witch Academia, and the infamous Baba Yaga. Clowncore is one of the oldest out there aesthetics still in use today, dating as far back as the 5th dynasty of Egypt. Within Native American culture, the trickster embodies the spirit of the coyote and becomes a sacred clown character. Richard Pachinko, a Canadian-born performer, combined the world of European and Native American clowning techniques to create a form of masquerade with the medicine wheel. Since then, several factions of grease-painted goobers have emerged. From the juggalos to the kiss crowd, clowns have turned their esoteric corners of pop culture into their own expanded clown car. The influence of clowns can be seen in such characters as Harley Quinn, Mr. Mime, Krusty the Clown, Sweet Tooth, and Ronald McDonald. Rooted in the mid-70s rock scene, punk expanded rock into short, fast, and hard-edged melodies. Punk blew out from the garage rock scene, with kids fueling their angst into vocals, drums, and guitars. Punk's life began from Iggy Pop, the godfather punk. The Clash's multi-dimensional sound changed what the scene would be. Black Flag defined the late 80s, and the accessibility of Blink-182 gave punk away to the system. The soundscapes of rebellious youth are worn loud and proud by the punk community of today, with their black leather, silver studs, spiked hair, and battered boots. This wild bunch are here to stand against the man. Some punk bands to give a try are the Ramones, Green Day, Iggy Pop, Black Flag, Sex Pistols, Patti Smith, Misfits, Husker Du, and Joyce Manor. Let's change gear and head back over to Maddie, who's got our guests awaiting to answer some of our questions.
Let's go!
Thanks, Paul. We have a great selection of guests to answer our questions about these fantastic aesthetics, so let's get right into it. Enter the cauldron with witchcore.
Hi, I'm Zoe. My pronouns are she and they, and I am currently attending York University in their acting conservatory, and my aesthetic is the witch aesthetic.
And welcome, Zoe, to our show. How are you today?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. So I understand you are of Wiccan descent. How much of that influences you?
I'd like to say that it really influences me a lot just because it's what I've grown up with, it's all I've really known, and I really take my practices like straight to the heart like I do them every day. So I'd say it's very impactful into my life.
That's awesome. Now, do you have a favorite witch-related media?
I do. Actually, it's Hocus Pocus and Halloween Town. It was some movies that me and my mom used to watch a lot as a kid, and I think a lot of my style does like really pop from them.
Nice. Now, in your opinion, how well are witches represented in the media?
In my opinion, I think that witches are represented kind of 50-50 in the media. Partially, we're represented as very creative people, people who are very expressive and kind and just really giving and receiving when it comes to the world and the earth. But I also feel like there are a lot of people that perceive us to be like Satan worshippers and demonic and all this other stuff that I really don't think is covers everyone, I guess.
Yeah. Now, have you ever encountered any paranormal events?
I have actually. Back when somebody in my family had passed away, my mom and I had set up like their picture and put a candle up. And I remember there was nobody home. There was just me, and I was sitting across the room from the picture. And I just remember turning around to go look at it, and the candle just went out. Like there was no wind, no windows were open. I didn't walk past it; it just went out as soon as I looked. And I was just kind of like, ooh, kind of
Do
creepy.
those things scare you at all?
They used to when I was younger, but now it's just kind of, oh hi, what's up? What are you doing here?
Now, do you think that witches are more commonly feared or welcome in society nowadays?
I think nowadays we're way more welcome than we were before. I mean, there will always be an oddball person who's kind of off put by us, but I don't think that we're negatively received.
That's good. I'm very glad. Now, can anyone be a witch?
Yeah, anyone can be a witch. I don't think there's any prerequisites or anything you have to really be a part of or do in order to be a witch.
Now, is there something that makes a witch a witch?
I think it really depends on what you are passionate about. Personally, I'm an ancestry witch, so a lot of my practices go to past loved ones or people that I've descended from. But there are like garden witches and water witches, and it's kind of like whatever connects you to the practice and the aesthetic is what really makes you a witch.
So you would say that there's a lot of different types of witches out there then?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the most common one is probably a spellcaster witch, so people who do tarot and magic and like make spells and stuff like that. I do that sometimes, but like it's not like my main thing.
That's awesome. Well, it's really interesting to hear all of this because it's not something common. And I think it's definitely something that's awesomely represented in the media nowadays. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Now, let's go and head on into the move the drape and enter the tent with clowncore.
Hello, my name's Mimsy, and my pronouns are she, they. I go to Sheridan College, and my program is Makeup for Media and Creative Arts. My aesthetic is clowncore.
And welcome, Mizuki, to our show.
Hello.
So, what's the story behind the name Mimsy?
So Mizzy is a short form from Mizuki. It's like the first I think like 3 letters. So yeah, that's how I got that name.
That's awesome. So, in common Western phobias, there is a huge fear of clowns. How do you feel about this?
I feel like in like Western culture, you portray clowns in like a lot of horror movies as like something really scary. And like I feel like you shouldn't be scared of like me and like other people that like do like clowncore. Like there's nothing to be scared of. They're just people trying to like be creative and like show their like aesthetic and like their art.
Absolutely. I could never be scared of you dressed up and with your beautiful makeup like that. I would definitely approach you
Thank
on the side
you.
of the street. So, how does your clown persona differ from your everyday persona?
My clown persona is like very bubbly, like outgoing, like charismatic, eccentric. And like in actuality, I'm very like, quiet, a little bit more reserved. My style is very different from clowncore because clowncore is very like colorful and out there.
Nice. So, do you ever dream of running away to a circus?
I have once, I find circuses very like I've always wanted to go. I've actually never gone. And like they're so like colorful and like there's people like entertaining. They all like have like these talents and I think it's like so amazing that they do that stuff.
What would you where would your expertise be in a circus if you were placed in one?
Oh, if I was placed on, I think the closest thing would probably be something in gymnastics, like some type of like performance
Ah,
with like all like the flips and such.
that's awesome. So how did this aesthetic come to you?
I feel like it came to me more from like TikTok and a lot from TikTok actually and Instagram and Pinterest because I saw these like people like doing clowncore and I was like, what is this new thing? And then I just wanted to try it and ever since just stuck with it.
Was there any specific influencers that caught your eye?
One specific influencer I would say is like Melanie Martinez, because I know her shtick is very like vintage slash there's a little bit of clownery in there, you can tell.
So, do you think nowadays that clowns are better represented in the media with these more positive influences?
I feel like yes, and a little bit of no, because like you still have like those horror movies and stuff, but a lot of people dress up as those characters because they're like, oh, it's so cool and like they're scary. But then you have like people like me that dress up like this and like they're like colorful and more like friendly.
So, a different balance of both worlds.
Yeah, best of both worlds.
Well, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So, to finish off this segment, let's stick it to the man with some talk about punk.
My name is Ermias. I prefer he, they pronouns. I currently study BFTB at Sheridan. I just love how punk allows me to express myself in a wild, crazy way that makes me feel alive.
Oh, there's Ermias to join us. Hello, and welcome to our show.
Hello, thanks for having me.
So, I want to know how much of punk history influences your style?
A lot of punk history influences my style. Obviously there's like the golden age of like the late 70s, even like the earlier like the Ramones and like the mid 70s and stuff. But I think a lot of like late punk and like closer to post punk is what like represents my style personally.
Do you have a favorite era of punk specifically?
Yeah. It would either be like late 70s, like 79 to 80, or right after that where it started shifting into like goth and like post punk, where it became like a lot darker and a lot more evil and like vampire-y and stuff. I think that's my favorite.
So would you say there's a large section of different punk eras that very vastly differ from one another?
Yeah, because I mean, punk was like a very short-lived, like pure punk back in like the late 70s was really like short-lived. It was like a few years, and then it just kept evolving. Different styles and different like looks that people came up with just got like they took it away and they kept going. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think punk is dead in the modern day?
I don't think punk is dead in the modern way because just like it was before, while the original punk bands were really short-lived, the idea of punk was just something that was just so rapidly evolving that people would always think of the look of the past, but it just kept changing, and the soul and the spirit was still always there, just in different forms.
Yeah, I love that it kept adapting through the eras. So do you think that punk is timeless then?
Yes, I do think punk is timeless. I think punk has a really, you know, just it's at its base, it's just an emotional expression of self. Mostly rebellious, mostly, just not caring how other people look, and just becoming the ideal version of yourself, true to
Yeah.
yourself. Yeah.
So, punk music. What's your favorite punk band?
It's a late 70s band. The Damned. They're a really cool band. One of the first like punk bands to like incorporate like that like vampire style. The lead singer, Dave Vanian, was like really like goth and like creepy and shit, and it was really cool.
Now, what is punk to you?
Punk is truth to me, I think. I think punk is just be allowing yourself to be honest and, angry and upset with things in life that you can't change. And try to change it and use that energy to propel yourself forward. I think punk just helped me become a much better version of myself and become a much more honest version of myself.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for talking about some punk with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, thank you, all my favorite guests we had on today. Now, let's discuss how these aesthetics are presented in the media. When thinking of aesthetics, Pinterest, the hub for anything and everything artistic and expressive, and TikTok, a growing video app that allows people to present and express their aesthetics from across the world, are great platforms. The way the media has influenced aesthetics could be seen both ways, by uplifting it by giving it publicity and supporting the world of specific aesthetics. But like usual, the media will tear down the ones that don't fit the against the status. Like with most minority groups, schools teach people about the Wiccan tradition through the lens of tragedy. The infamous Salem witch trials, as well as the stage play The Crucible, detailing said events, paint Wiccans as sacrilegious but unserving practitioners of black magic. This viewpoint is limiting, but pervasive. These days, witches are portrayed as villainous beings, as seen in The Wizard of Oz or Sleeping Beauty, who go against the wholesome Christian values of the protagonists. Unlike witches or clowns who had to be adapted into the media, punk was born into the garage rock scene in the 70s. Seeing as how they were the ones that formed it, it was perhaps one of the best represented aesthetics in media. The irony is that punk was formed to fight the media, yet their representation is one of the most honest and bold. Just shows you to stick with who you are. In contrast, clowns have it worse in media. While witches may be villainized, clowns are aggressively feared by Western society. Two of the most famous clowns in fiction are noted villains, that being Pennywise and the Joker. Not to mention the real-life exploits of John Wayne Gacy, the clown killer. Strangely, clowns are uniquely Western feared. In Eastern countries such as Japan, they are recognized as the original symbol of good fun. Their culture is simply built different. Now it's time to shift to the thrift, with our head of transmedia, Jessie, unboxing in style.
Hi guys, I'm Jessie and welcome to Thrifting with Jessie, where I take you guys along with me, a minimalist indie kind of aesthetic, on a thrifting try-on haul. Let's go! We got the goods! So today I ended up choosing 3 different tops. The first one I got was this light blue quarter zip sweater. I really like this one because I think it'll be great in spring, and even in winter and fall it'll keep me nice and comfy, and I just love the colors. The second one I picked out was this red Tommy Hilfiger t-shirt. I really like this one too because I have a couple other Tommy Hilfiger items in my wardrobe and I think it'll go right with them. And the last one I picked out was this crop top. I think it's just beautiful. I love all the sequins and the design around it. I think it'll be great in summer and it's nice and light, so that one will be great. Alright, and to wrap things up for today, I hope that this encourages those who aren't super into thrifting, who haven't thrifted before, to go out and thrift because it's better for the environment, uses less resources, less products go into the landfill. Everything is so much cheaper than big box stores. Ultimately, it's better for your bank. That's it for now. Have a great one.
What a haul. And now for our final section, in which we talk about the future of our fashion statements. In the modern day, aesthetics have become a phenomenon. This is part due to the universal access to history, cultures, and interior design from the internet and social media. This connection has created an entire culture of aesthetics, allowing people to define themselves as one aesthetic or as many as they want. They have become far more than they once were, and in the near future, aesthetics will likely become their own medium and art form. In this episode, we looked at 3 different aesthetics, with a guest for each. I'd like to thank them for sharing their stories and providing insight into their lives and ideas. It was lovely to see what makes you, you. From Zoe's Wiccan faith to Mizuki's eccentric attitude and Ermias' insight into society. Aesthetics are heading towards a new golden age, blossoming into so many different genres that it could certainly become an elective for us art students. I'd like to ask the audience just a quick question. Just some food for thought next time you're matching out clothes for your next outing. What does this blossoming art of aesthetics mean to you? Thus, the drawer is closed on yet another episode of Not a Phase. I hope that our program inspires you to discover your own style. Be sure to follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Pinterest, subscribe to our YouTube, and check out our playlist on Spotify. The support means a lot to myself and the Not a Phase team. Stay swaggy.